ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्य उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। Reading Canto 4, titled Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 31, titled Narada Instructs the Prachetas, verse number 11. Shrutena tapasa vakim vachobhishchitta vrittibhihi buddhya vakim nipunaya bale nendriya radhasa. Shrutena tapasa vakim vachobhishchitta vrittibhihi buddhya vakim nipunaya bale nendriya radhasa. Shrutena tapasa vakim vachobhishchitta vrittibhihi buddhya vakim nipunaya bale nendriya radhasa.
Shutena tapasa vakim vachobhishchitta vrittivihi buddhya vakim nipunaya bale nendriya radhasa. Shutena tapasa vakim vachobhishchitta vrittivihi buddhya vakim nipunaya bale nendriya radhasa.
Okay. Word to word meanings. Shrutena, by Vedic education. Tapasa, by austerities. Va, or. Kim, what is the meaning? Vachobhihi, by words. Chitta, of consciousness. Vrittibhihi, by the occupations. Buddhya, by intelligence. Va, or. Kim, what is the use? Nipunaya, expert. Balena, by bodily strength. Indriya radhasa, by the power of the senses. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Without devotional service, what is the meaning of severe austerities? The process of hearing, the power of speech, the power of mental speculation, elevated intelligence, strength, and the power of the senses. From the Ishopanishads, Mundaka Upanishad 3.2.3, we learn नायमात्मा प्रवचनेन लभ्यो न मेध्य न बहुना श्रुतेन यम एवैष वृणोति तेन लभ्यस् तस्यैष आत्मा विवृणुते tanum swam. Our relationship with the Supreme Lord is never advanced by simple study of the Vedas. There are many Mayavadi sannyasis fully engaged in the study of the Vedas, Vedanta Sutra, and Upanishads, but unfortunately they cannot grasp the real essence of knowledge. In other words, they do not know the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What then is the use in studying all the Vedas if one cannot grasp the essence of the Vedas, Krishna? The Lord confirms in the Bhagavad Gita 15.15, Vedaischa sarvair ahameva vidyah. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. There are many religious systems wherein penances and austerities are greatly stressed. But at the end, no one understands Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is therefore no point in such penance, tapasya. If one has actually approached the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he does not need to undergo severe austerities. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is understood through the process of devotional service. In the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, devotional service is explained as Raja Guhyam, the king of all confidential knowledge. There are many good reciters of Vedic literatures, and they recite works such as Ramayana, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes these professional readers manifest very good scholarship and exhibit word jugglery. Unfortunately, they are never devotees of the Supreme Lord. Consequently, they cannot impress upon the audience the real essence of knowledge, Krishna. There are also many thoughtful writers and creative philosophers, but despite all their learning, if they cannot approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are simply useless mental speculators. There are many sharply intelligent people in this material world, and they discover so many things for sense gratification. They also analytically study the material elements, but despite their expert knowledge and expert scientific analysis of the whole cosmic manifestation, their endeavors are useless because they cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As far as our senses are concerned, there are many animals, both beasts and birds, who are very expert in exercising their senses more keenly than human beings. For example, vultures and hawks can go very high in the sky, but can see a small body on the ground very clearly. This means that their eyesight is so keen that they can find an eatable corpse from a great distance. Certainly, their eyesight is much keener than the human beings, but this does not mean that their existence is more important than of a human being. Similarly, dogs can smell many things from a far distance. Many fish can understand by the power of sound that an enemy is coming. All these examples are described in Srimad Bhagavatam. If one's senses cannot help him attain the highest perfection of life, the realization of the Supreme, they are all useless. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamahim Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन् इति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वतदेवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरं हरिः ओम् तत्सत्। Hare Krishna. So today's verse is basically the essence of Vedic knowledge. It says, without devotional service, what is the meaning of severe austerities, the process of hearing, the power of speech, the power of mental speculation, elevated intelligence, strength, and the power of these senses. So, speaking about life in general, the biggest disease in the material world is the bodily conception of life, where people start thinking, I am this body and I'm not the spirit soul. And with the body comes the attachments to the body, and the attachments to the extensions of the body. And in order to be happy in this material world, which is illusioned to the core, one needs to do some things to get appreciation in the world. Example, if somebody is sitting in the society of pigs, so the pigs like to be dirty, the pigs like to be fat, pigs like to eat stool, the pigs are like to be very dirty in terms of their family life also. So in the society of pigs, the pig which is the fattest and which is the dirtiest will get most appreciation. If a devotee goes into the society of the pigs and starts having bath every day, cleaning his room every day, eating rice dal properly after offering to Jagannath every day, he will not be appreciated only. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada often says that camels, asses, dogs, dogs, and one more animal he uses. So these are the category of people our society is filled up with. So they will appreciate something which is of that nature only. So in the society, in the material world, what is appreciated? If somebody is doing a lot of austerities, it is appreciated. Oh, I'm not able to do any austerity, but that person is able to do this austerity. But the purpose of the austerity is not thought of. That is the main problem. Aradhanam yadi hari tapasa tatha kim, naradhanam yadi hari tapasa tatha kim. The Vedic literatures, they say that if you are worshipping Lord Krishna, who is known as Hari, then what is the need of doing austerities? Because that is the highest austerity. In fact, if you are not doing worship to Lord Hari, then what is the use of all your austerities? We have austerity Shiromani known as Hiranyakashipu. When Lord Brahma came to bless him, he said that nobody in the past has done an austerity like you, and nobody in the future will also do an austerity like you. So for the rest of at least this day of Brahma, we can understand that as far as austerity is concerned, nobody can do it better than Hiranyakashipu. But then what was the result of it? He couldn't become a devotee of Krishna. The Bhagavatam says that after finishing his austerities, he became so much addicted to sense gratification that after doing sense gratification, which was unimaginable, inconceivable, unparalleled, unbeatable, and beyond human thought process, he did that level of sense gratification and he was not happy. So this is the result of the austerities. Srila Prabhupada says in his purports that in order to curb the senses, people, they immerse up to the neck in ice cold water in places like Badrikashram and other places where there is a lot of cold. And in terms of sometimes in the month of summer, they burn a fire all around them and they sit in the middle of the fire. So they understand that by doing all this, they'll be able to achieve the process of pratyahar. But pratyahar is not possible unless and until anartha nivritti has been done. The whole point gets missed. If austerities are being done with a desire to achieve something other than Krishna, or if austerities are being done with the idea that by the power or on the strength of these austerities, I'll be able to achieve something, then that austerity is called demoniac austerity. Any austerity which is not done for the purpose of progressing in Krishna consciousness or pleasing Krishna or the devotees of Krishna, that austerity is termed as demoniac. At one point of time, Srila Prabhupada felt that the production and the printing of Chaitanya Charitamrita was not up to the mark, was not speeded up enough. So Prabhupada made a comment that I'm not being inspired to further do the translations. 14 volumes are pending. What is this? So they said that Prabhupada, it takes around 3 months to properly, I think they told 6 months to properly proofread it, everything, and then make the paintings and get it approved by you, and then install it in the book, and then print it, and then get it done nicely. So they said that maybe in the next 2 years, we'll try to speed it up and finish it off. And Prabhupada said, no, do it in a month or so. They said impossible. And then Prabhupada turned around in a very heroic, momentous way. He looked very seriously into the eyes of that devotee and he said, impossible is a word in the Fool's Dictionary. And after that, what austerity these devotees they did? They made shifts, shift A, shift B, shift C. Shift A was from morning 6 to afternoon 2. Shift B was from afternoon 2 to night 10. And shift C was from night 10 to morning 6. So devotees were working in shifts. Now this is the corporate culture and this is Ugra Karma. But for the purpose of Krishna, that was allowed. And for 1 month, they worked so hard that in a month's time only, they could publish all the pending volumes of Chaitanya Charitamrita. And then Prabhupada, sometimes the devotees who were part of that group who was into reading, editing, typing, publishing, printing, when they would come and sit in the Bhagavatam class also, Prabhupada would stare at them, that what are you doing here? You're supposed to go and be engaged in printing. So all the devotees say that it was a serious austerity. We were not sleeping also properly. We were not eating properly. We were not doing anything properly. And once all the books were published, then Prabhupada said that all of you who have done such severe austerity for me, I will ensure that all of you will go back home, back to God. So 1 month of austerity, eternal reward of residence in Golok Vrindavan. And then thousands of years of austerity simply wasted away in sense gratification. So this is the difference between divine and demoniac austerities. So our austerities also should be very divine. Otherwise, what is the meaning of severe austerities? Similarly, the process of hearing. Hearing should be done only for Krishna. There is no lack of, everybody wants to be heard. Everybody wants to hog the limelight. Everybody has a desire that when they speak, the whole world should hear. But there's no point in hearing from such people. Or we should hear from personalities like Shukdev Goswami, from personalities like Parikshit Maharaj. Shukdev Goswami came and told the Srimad Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj for 7 days. And then Parikshit Maharaj took a vow of silence and wanted to embrace death, or rather wanted to quit his body even before death came. But then his mother Uttara comes and she says that, you please explain me in brief whatever Parikshit Maharaj, whatever you have heard from Shukdev Goswami. And Parikshit Maharaj says that, see, I had taken a vow of silence, but your question is so nice that it is worth breaking my vow. So therefore, I'll tell you something. And then whatever Parikshit Maharaj told, that became Brihad Bhagavatamrita. So we see hearing is very important. but we have to hear from the right source. Because we hear wrong things, it makes wrong impressions, wrong implants in our heart. We set wrong goals. Therefore, hearing should be done only from Srimad Bhagavatam. One can go to the Supreme Court of India and sit there whole day, something they can keep hearing. But then the result of that hearing is that one will not be able to remember Krishna at the time of death. One will not be able to control their sense gratification. One will not be able to focus their mind on the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Krishna. So the perception or the sensory perception of hearing should be used for hearing Krishna. Otherwise, the Bhagavatam says, those who do not engage their ear holes in hearing Krishna, their ear holes are like the potholes where the snakes live. There's no value of such ear holes. And then the power of speech, of course. If you do not speak Krishna or Krishna's names, form, qualities, and pastimes, then you are not practicing the austerity of speech. The Bhagavad Gita talks about the austerity of speech. Anudvega karam vakyam satyam priyam hitam chayat. So your speech should not be, first of all, it should be truthful, but at the same time, it should be non-agitating. At the same time, it should be beneficial. And satyam, priyam, hitam. Yeah. So basically, these qualifications are needed in your speech. And then you should always be regularly reciting the Vedic scriptures. Then only you can consider that your speech is you are austere by your speech. Now, if you carefully analyze what Krishna has put in these statements of the Bhagavad Gita, I think it is chapter 17, sloka number 15. You can check. If you will not speak Krishna Katha, then you cannot follow this verse only. And if you don't take a vow of speaking only Krishna Katha, then you cannot follow this verse also. Gramya Katha na kahive or Grama Katha na sunive. If we do not follow if we don't take a vow of speaking only Krishna Katha and hearing only Krishna Katha, then the world is designed in such a way that one will engage in Gramya Katha. And one who is engaged in Gramya Katha, a lot of space in their mind will be used to store the information coming from the Gramya Katha, and so therefore that person will not have sufficient facilities to think of Krishna and remember Krishna. So that is the problem. We have to speak the right things, then only we'll be able to progress. Of course, mental speculation, elevated intelligence, strength, and power of senses. The Bhagavatam says that Harav abhaktasya kuto mahadguna manorathe nasati dhavato bahihi. Those who are devotees of Hari, yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana sarvair gunes tatra samasate sura. They will have very nice qualities, divine qualities. When they will act as good as Krishna. Sometimes devotees say that acharyas and representatives of Krishna, they act better than Krishna also. So, but those who are not devotees of Hari, their mental speculation is their disease. The acharyas are also doing thinking process. They are thinking on the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Krishna. Veer Raghav Acharya has given 19 reasons in the Srimad Bhagavatam why Krishna closed his eyes while killing Putana. Now that is also thought process, that is also analysis, but because it is for Krishna, it is not called as speculation. Now, somebody else can also give 19 reasons why the grass is green in color and what are the reasons why the grass is growing like that. And one can write volumes of book also. Just on a blade of grass, volumes of book can be written. But what is the book? It is just, there's no point in such discussions. All these mental speculation, all the strength, all the power of the senses, all the great speech. Adolf Hitler used to give great speeches. So much so that he used to move the audience. They would be in tears while they were listening to him. But what was the outcome of that? At one point of time, Adolf Hitler was taken down and people killed him. So The point which I'm trying to make here is that if we are not engaged in bhakti, then all these so-called opulences, what are the opulences? Austerities, process of hearing, power of speech, mental speculation, elevated intelligence, strength, and the power of senses. All these things will simply be wasted, not properly utilized, and everything will be finished by just one aspect of Krishna, that is called as time. Simply time will finish everything. One may be very proud that I have written one book. The name of the book is, let's say, Immortals of Meluha, or the name of the book is Harry Potter, or some, there are some authors who are very, very good at agitating their mind to think about a particular subject matter. They are material munis. They have started something called as, there's an author who's writing books on Lord Shiva. He calls it as Shiva trilogy. And all he does is that takes the book and he mentally agitates his mind and thinks something, and then he writes in the book, and the younger generation thinks, oh, that is the truth. Now he has started Lord Ram trilogy. And after that, he has just announced that I'll write Krishna trilogy also. And in his book, he says Lord Ram is a meat eater and Bharat is a flirt in the city of Ayodhya. And, I don't want to talk about what Lakshman and Shatrugna are doing according to him in the book. And the youngsters, they are reading those books and they are coming and telling us that this is the truth. Ramayana is just a poetic exaggeration. What this author is writing is the truth. So what is the point of such mental speculation? All your mental speculation will be simply finished at the time of death. So therefore, if you are not a devotee of Krishna, anything which is being done is simply a waste of time. Srila Prabhupada talks about the Vedanta sannyasis who are engaged in studying the Veda and the Vedanta Sutra and the Upanishads. Prakashanand Saraswati was one such sannyasi found in the city of Benares. He was very much engaged in the study of Vedanta. And then Lord Chaitanya, when he encountered him, he asked him that a sannyasi is only supposed to study the Vedanta. Why are you dancing and singing with the local people who have no knowledge about the purpose of life? You're simply dancing and singing with them like a common man in the street. You are, a sannyasi. You should not do all this. So then Lord Chaitanya became merciful on them and explained them the real meaning of Vedanta. He did the same with Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya also. So Vedanta means Vedesh Sarvair Ahameva Vedyo Vedantikrit Vedavid Eva Chaham. By all the study, ultimately one should come to the conclusion that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then he is the Sarva Karana Karanam. Yesterday, I was reading the Srimad Bhagavatam and I found one purport of Srila Prabhupada where he explained how Krishna is Sarva Karana Karanam. I'm just trying to recollect that. Yeah. Prabhupada said that the waves in the ocean come from the wind. The wind comes from the ether. The ether comes from the modes of material nature. And the modes of material nature come when the Mahatattva is glanced upon by Krishna. When the Mahatattva is glanced upon by Krishna, the Mahatattva becomes agitated, and that in future leads to the production of the modes of material nature. So in that way, Krishna is Sarva Karana Karanam. I was very happy when I was reading this purport. That, the modes are coming because of the glance of Krishna. Due to the modes, ether is coming. Due to the ether, wind is coming. Due to the wind, the waves in the ocean is coming. And you can link it further to the generation of hydroelectric power or something. And then the bulb in this room is lighting because of Krishna. Like that, you can prove it. So this is called as proper usage of our intelligence. Very recently, we did a Rath Yatra, and for many hours, devotees were pulling the Rath, dancing around the Rath, distributing prasadam, doing Harinam Sankirtan. This is the proper utilization of the strength. This utilization is proper. So this is the real purpose of the Vedanta, to engage in the service of Krishna. One Srila Prabhupada was there in the Radha Damodar temple, translating the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And then every day in the morning, one lady used to come. She used to get up, have bath, and then go to the Yamuna, fetch, basically a pot full of Yamuna water, and she used to bring every day to bathe the deities, Radha Damodar. And she would come every day 4 a.m. in the morning, and then she would knock, and Srila Prabhupada only would go and open the gate. So in one of his lectures, Srila Prabhupada said that she is a better Vedantist than all these Mayavadi sannyasis who have spent their lifetime reading. She was probably an illiterate woman. But Prabhupada told that because she used to have the desire to get up early, and the first thing which she would do is to bring water for the bathing of the deities, simply because of doing this one single activity, she is going back home, back to Godhead, and she has understood the essence of all the Vedic literature, that is to engage in the service of Krishna. Prabhupada told that she is a better Vedantist than most of the other Mayavadi sannyasis, because she knows the Ant of all the Vedas. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. If that is not happening, everything is a waste of time. Later on in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is telling the Supreme Personality of Godhead is understood through the process of devotional service. In the 9th chapter, Bhagavad Gita, devotional service is explained as Rajaguhyam, the king of all confidential knowledge. Krishna says, Sa evayam maya tedya yoga proktah puratanaha bhakto sime sakha cheti rahasyam hyetaduttamam. So, unless and until one becomes a devotee of Krishna, and unless and until one becomes or one has a non-envious, friendly service attitude towards Krishna, they cannot understand Krishna. They cannot understand the Bhagavad Gita. Rahasyam hyetaduttamam. For them, it will remain a rahasya. So therefore, there is a whole chapter called as Raj Vidya, which is very guhyam, very secretive. It is open to only those people who have these two qualifications. They are non-envious of Krishna and they are devotees of Krishna. Only those who have these two qualities, they can understand what is devotional service. And therefore, only those who have entered the realm of devotional service, their austerities, their intelligence, their strength, their power of senses is put to good use. Everybody else is simply wasting their time by the rising and the setting of the sun. Prabhupada says there are many good reciters of Vedic literature and they recite the works such as Ramayana, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes these professional readers manifest very good scholarship and exhibit word jugglery. Unfortunately, they are never the devotees. They are never devotees of the Supreme Lord. Consequently, they cannot impress upon the audience of the real essence or the knowledge of Krishna. Unfortunately, great knowledge or great scholarship is not a guarantee to go back home, back to Godhead. Especially when one's heart is not sold out for Krishna, it becomes an obstacle only. Advaitam Acyutam Anadim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha. Krishna has many forms. But all these forms are known through the Vedas. Vedesh Durlabham Adurlabham Atma Bhakto Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Even if you read the Vedas so many times, like Brahma has read the entire Vedic literature 3 times. The only person who has done that other than Brahma is Vedvyas. And both of them have come to the conclusion that rendering devotional service to Krishna is the highest understanding of the Vedic literature. But still, if somebody is not willing to render devotional service to Krishna and has a lifetime big enough to read the Bhagavad, to read the Vedas, let's say the fourth time also, still they'll not be able to understand Krishna. Vedesh durlabham, adurlabham atma bhakta. Because Krishna reveals himself only to his devotees and not to anybody else. So if somebody is claiming that I have studied, I will read the Bhagavad Gita 10 times, I'll go to Banaras Hindu University and read under 10 professors, and then I'll become a more realized person of the Bhagavad Gita, and therefore on the strength of my reading of Bhagavad Gita, I'll go back home, back to Godhead. That is not possible. We have to do pranipat. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. We have to render devotional service to some purified devotees of Krishna who are Tattvadarshis. And by their mercy, we will get Vasudeva Katharuchi. And when we get Vasudeva Katharuchi, then there is some hope for us to be stable in our practice of Krishna consciousness. And then there is some further hope to remember Krishna. Otherwise, this scholarship, who can be a better scholar than Prakashananda Saraswati? Who can be a better scholar than Digvijay Pandit or Keshav Kashmiri? But all of them were deluded. For that matter, even Ravan was a great scholar. But all that scholarship didn't help him. However, there are simple-hearted devotees of Vrindavan, the gopis. They are simple women with sublime devotion. They have not read the Vedic literatures, but they have heard from the right sources, because of which their attachment to Krishna has become very fixed. And they are rendering devotional service to Krishna with all their hearts. They don't even know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But just out of love and affection for Krishna, they are serving Krishna. They do not want any sense of personal security in devotional service. They don't even care if Krishna is listening to them or not listening to them, appreciating them or not appreciating them, blessing them or not blessing them. In all circumstances, they are rendering devotional service. Nobody is better Vedantists than these gopis. So one has to try to come or try to walk into the footsteps of the gopis under the guidance of the previous acharyas. Otherwise, all this knowledge, especially the professional reciters of Srimad Bhagavatam, when they will recite Srimad Bhagavatam, because of the knowledge which they have, because of the vocabulary which they have, and because of the aura which they create with background music and so many other things, stage and 10,000 people attending, you will see they will make nice appeal to the audience and collect a lot of money. But when the audience hears that and goes back home, they immediately engage in sense gratification. They do their Bhagavad Saptahas. After hearing the Bhagavad Saptah from Shukdev Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj, told Brihad Bhagavatamrit and went back home, back to Godhead. But after hearing Bhagavad Saptah from such professional reciters, people immediately after coming back, they do sense gratification. So that is the major challenge which is existing. So we have to understand that if we are not devotees of Krishna, there is no hope for us. The same thing Prabhupada is telling in the purport. There are many sharply intelligent people in this material world, and they discover so many things for sense gratification. They also analytically study all the material elements, but despite their expert knowledge and expert scientific analysis of the whole cosmic manifestation, their endeavors are useless because they cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just like in mathematics, you're trying to solve some problem, and if in one of the steps, if you go wrong, then after that, even if you do the process for next 5 or 6 pages, everything is wrong because the fundamental is wrong. No mathematics teacher will tell you that what you have done is correct, you have followed the procedure very nicely, but in one step you went wrong, because of which all the other later steps were wrong. So at least I'll give you some mercy, some marks. No, nobody will listen like that. So similarly, in Krishna consciousness or in life in general, if you do not get the basic step right, that means rendering devotional service to Krishna, then everything else will be wrong. But if you get, unlike mathematics, if you get that one step right, you have to do other steps right also. But Krishna consciousness is much superior to that. You get just one thing right. Just somehow become a devotee of Krishna and just somehow follow the instructions of the Acharya. Just do this one thing right. And even if you do everything else wrong in your life, doesn't matter. But if you do everything else right in your life and don't get this one step right of becoming a devotee or trying to become a devotee of Krishna, then everything else will be lost and forgotten, like the pages of history of standard 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10th. So that is the problem. Now, in the last paragraph of the purport, Srila Prabhupada talks about sense control. He says, as far as our senses are concerned, there are many animals, both birds and beasts, who are very expert in exercising their senses more keenly than human beings. Prabhupada gives the example of vultures, dogs, and fishes. But when we use our senses in the service of Krishna, that is called proper usage of senses. All these hawks and vultures, they can see from a great distance. But what do they see and meditate upon? A dead body. But there was one hawk, or one vulture. His name was Sampati. He was sitting on the bank of an ocean. And when Hanuman, Nal Neel, Jamwant and others had come, he used his vision to see miles away. And he used his vision, his sense of farsight, to help the devotees of Lord Ram, Hanuman and others, to help them locate Mother Sita. He told that I'm seeing Mother Sita. She's sitting in Ashok Vatika in the palace of Ravan. So here is Sampati, also a vulture. And there are so many other vultures. But why do we remember the name of only one vulture? Because he used his sense of farsight, of being able to see to a great distance in the service of the Lord. He used his senses in the service of the Lord, so he became so glorious, because that is the right thing to do. But all the other vultures, nonsense vultures, they are simply roaming around in the sky waiting for someone to die. You know what they think when you are driving a vehicle, and if they are on your head, they are thinking, when will this vehicle come with me to an accident? When will this person die so that I can eat him nicely? That is the consciousness of the other vultures. So what is the point? Some people are doing research. Oh, eyesight of vulture is very good. Oh, reproductive glands of the monkey are very good. The eating tendency of the pig is very good. The sleeping tendency of the bear is very good. And they are trying to learn from it. In fact, at one point of time, I was also madly becoming a part of it. I was trying to learn from the ants in the final year of my engineering. And I was trying to write some papers on ant colony optimization. So the ants, when they find some sugar cube or something sweet or something which is good, they make an army and they try to pick up those food stuff and they take it back to a secure place. And thousands of ants are working, and not even one ant collides or dashes against the other ant. And even if the other ants don't know where is the how do they communicate? They leave something called as pheromone trails. It's a kind of aromatic substance which the other ants can smell. Otherwise, how is it possible that you drop one sugar and 200 ants come to know? They don't have WhatsApp, they don't have Facebook. So they have a mechanism in which they work, and the process, and while doing that, they do not collide with each other. So I was very much amazed to read about all that. So I was trying to see that if we can use it in networking, so that while using the internet, if the packets don't drop or if the packets of data do not collide with each other, then there will be no need of load balancing on servers. I was thinking on those lines. I was trying to learn from ants Why? So that I can use my internet better and do more sense gratification. But the real use of intelligence would have been that trying to learn from ants and then using it somehow in the service of Krishna. So all the young students and technology enthusiasts, if you're hearing this lecture, anything which you observe in nature, try to use that in the service of Krishna. If you want to be called as a human being, and if you claim that, yeah, I'm trying to learn from the ants, learn from the vultures, learn from the fishes, learn from the dogs, then try to get that learning and use it in the service of Krishna. Otherwise, that learning or that ability which you have of using that intelligence and being able to analyze things is simply wasted. We have to become like Sampati and not like some great scientist who is trying to simply make arrangements for further sense gratification. If one's senses cannot help him attain the perfection of life, realization of the Supreme, they are all useless. So we have to use our senses in the service of Krishna. Only then we will be able to be successful. I would conclude by just revising what we have discussed today. We understood that without devotional service, there is no meaning of our austerities, process of hearing, power of speech, mental speculation, elevated intelligence, strength, and the power of senses. We understood austerities when done for Krishna are divine, but austerities when done for the self or for the others or for any other purpose, it is demoniac. We understood that if we are a devotee of Krishna, we actually don't need to do any austerities, because the trying to render devotional service to Krishna is the highest austerity. And if we are not a devotee of Krishna, then all the austerities is a waste of time. We understood that we have to hear Krishna Katha and speak only Krishna Katha. If we don't take a vow of speaking only Krishna Katha, we cannot follow the austerity of speech as mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Similarly, if we do not only hear Krishna Katha, then it is not possible to always think of Krishna and never forget Krishna. We are supposed to use our intellectual abilities, which we have got in the species of human being, for advancing and progressing or reaching out to more people with this science of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, that intelligence is also wasted. Strength, both bodily and mental, should be used in the service of Krishna. Otherwise, that strength will be engaged in sinful activities. And similarly, power of senses, we understood by the example of Sampati, that how he was gifted by the far vision, far sight ability, and he used it in the service of Lord Ram, so he became very glorious. Everything becomes fruitful when used in the service of Krishna. When we are trying to assemble a great machine, each nut and bolt or each part has a particular place. And when we assemble it in the right place, when we put it in the right way, then what is created is appreciated. But if we fix them in the wrong places, in the wrong without proper knowledge, then it is simply a waste of time. So similarly, the proper usage of all the austerities and all the hearing, power of speech, mental speculation, elevated intelligence, strength, and senses is in the service of Krishna. When we use it, then that is the right usage. But when we don't use it in the service of Krishna, that is the wrong usage. It will harm us, it will harm the society, and it will also displease Krishna. So on that note, I would like to conclude today's discussion. If there are any questions or comments, they are welcome. Reflections. We have 4 minutes.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. I don't know if it's connected. We are not able to hear.
I can hear.
Wonderful session. The point that you underlined here is what ability we have got. I just connect. They are just the gift of Krishna. We have seen that. don't use these abilities for the service of Krishna. This what this graduates are getting all these abilities to use Krishna's Shakti in the mind. They have to use this to Krishna's glorification, Krishna's sanctity.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for accepting on a very short notice to give class. So it was very nice to hear. The point that materially, even if we are really very great experts in the material fields, utilizing our senses to the fullest, it's obviously waste of time because we don't develop any taste for Krishna consciousness. And if we don't, then we'll be stuck in this material world forever. So there's no point to be an expert in or to have a lot of opulences materially. And as you mentioned about the austerities, so austerity is done for Krishna, and that is the real austerity. Otherwise, it's just waste of time. Hare Krishna. Can we have Vibham Prabhu speaking?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji, as you mentioned, so as Prabhuji gave the example of Hiranyakashipu, so austerities not done for the pleasure of the Lord are simply a waste. And whatever austerities we do, that should be done for the pleasure of the Lord. Similarly, all our senses should be used in the service of the Lord. Just like the hearing capacity, like if we use it for hearing Gramya Katha, or then our ears will be like potholes where snakes reside. So we should use our hearing capacity also. We should hear Krishna Katha, like just like Parikshit Maharaj heard Krishna Katha from Shukdev Goswami. And after that, he spoke Bhagavatamrit. So like that, we should engage all our senses in the service of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. I'm very, very grateful to all of you. Please bless me so that I can actually follow whatever I have spoken. This association of devotees is my only hope. I was there at my parents' place for past few days, but today when I'm back in the association of devotees, I'm feeling so surcharged. I can tell you, without association of devotees, Krishna consciousness becomes dull. But in the association of devotees, Krishna consciousness is very exciting. And there's hope for everybody in Krishna consciousness in the association of devotees, provided they are not doing Vaishnava Aparadha. So I'm very happy that somehow I again got the association of devotees today. I'm very eager to be physically back and serve all of you. But please bless me so that I can follow whatever I have spoken today. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna, Hare Hare.
Ram, 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 Hare Hare.